5. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Today is Monday, May 12th, 2014. And this is RoopleeTV episode number 15. Hey everybody, how's it going? I'm Rooplee here. Today is episode number 15. I want to go over how to come back from behind. So it's a very common and, common occurrence that happens all of the time when you're playing Dota is that you get into a situation where you are behind and you can't figure out how to, overcome that, get ahead and win the game. And I want to talk a little bit about how you can do that. Well, a lot, actually. That's the whole episode, what it's about, right? I'm going to talk the whole episode about what you can do for that. And then I'm going to show you a game. It's actually a game that Dendi played. He just played in a solo queue game. So it's one of the games where, him being Dendi is able to come back from behind. But I also want to put an emphasis on what he does to come back from behind and what you can do to come back from behind. Ooh, excuse me. Man, I just had a lot of bubbly stuff today, so all right. Okay. I'm just making sure this is recording because right now I don't see it in my recorder. Let's see. Okay, yeah, it is here in the recorder. It just has a weird name. Cool. All right. So we are recording. So you ladies and gentlemen on YouTube, yeah, you'll be able to see this. Okay, cool. That's always good. That is always good to know that you guys can watch this as well. So, as usual, let's go into actually, let's just hop into the game, and then I can talk about some of the things that are really important. The main things to keep in mind about these games, as I'm going to go into the game, I'll talk about it, and then we can go ahead and go from there. So, the main thing to keep in mind with the game is that you shouldn't panic, and you shouldn't really do what you shouldn't want to do different things because you're behind. The best thing you can do when you're behind is do the best strategy that your team can and execute it really well. Do not necessarily force a strategy when you're behind because that's when you lose. It really depends on your team composition though, because if your carry has less farm than their carry or can't carry as hard and is not currently, then you have to make something happen, and that's a lot harder situation. But if you have the ability to carry equally as them or approximately equally, you can just stick with that and farm up. That's the best suggestion I can give you, is to make sure that you're getting more farm than your enemy. But if you are a more team fight, if you're split pushed, you have to split push and organize that. So just keep with the strategy that your team is meant to do and just keep executing better and better and figure out how you can get to those certain situations. That is the key to winning these games, because everybody's been in the games where there is absolutely nothing good going on and everybody's crying and everyone's behind and just nothing really is good. So, alright, I'm going to go ahead and get everything set up. So this is just a random game with Dendi in it. And here we will actually see Dendi as Sergeant Sand King coming in.
Better get ready.
And a couple of reasons why you can tell this is a pub game is that you see that we have Magnus going mid at the same time. Dendi did something really cool to compensate for that. So what Dendi did is at the very beginning, if we go back and look, he was going to buy a Wraith Band and a Salve, but he ended up selling the Salve and buying 2 Tangos, putting the Wraith Band 2 Tangos. See, he sold back the Salve, bought 2 Tangos because Magnus was going mid with him and he needs to contest for last hits. So Dendi being Dendi is not too happy about this. I don't really blame him. He plays mid every chance he gets, and even more so than just every chance he gets. So he's going to just be going mid right now. Magnus is going mid as well, with a name like LOL, please die, thanks, bye. You can expect he's pretty stubborn about that. So Dendi is quite a bit calmer than the Magnus, I would say. Magnus is probably, you know, he's got a Quelling Blade as well, so he's really trying to get the last hits. Quelling Blade, he's gonna, you know, he's got the Empower and the Shockwave, so Dendi's trying to do everything he can to A, stay alive with low hit points, and B, just get the last hit. So he does have Morph at level 1, which is a big help for him to be able to secure the last hits. But at the same time, Magnus is one of the best last hitters with a Quelling Blade and Empower. He'll have a lot of last hit potential, and he has a really good attack animation too. Level 1 Empower, in fact. So, one thing to note here is that this is what I like to call the Devil's Tri-Lane. So the Devil's Tri-Lane is what happens when you have a support or another person in your lane who's fighting you for last hit. So Tri-Lane being 3 people, Devil's Tri-Lane meaning 2 of them are on your team. Marana is randomly shooting arrows, not too terribly good at it, but see, even Shadowfiend comments at how ridiculous that is to have Quelling Blade Empower on Magnus at, you know, 69 damage plus another 32%. Yeah, so 69 plus 32, we're looking at like over 110 damage per right click. Very hard for Shadowfiend to last hit, obviously, but also very hard for Morphling to last hit. So Morphling's been doing better, so Dendi has been doing better than the Shadowfiend overall, but at the same time, not too good. So I don't really want to analyze this too much, because this situation is just like a garbage situation, honestly. This is just what happens when people are very stubborn and, you know, demand certain lanes, is that you fight against them. So the best you can do in this situation, I can tell you from a pub perspective, the best you can do is to try and just outlast hit your ally here. So Morphling does get hit, but he's able to morph during this, so he's doing fine. Like, he's able to just barely escape. He will have to pop a salve though, and he does not have anywhere close enough for the bottle, so not a good situation, because now he has less damage because he had to morph into strength. So not good for Morphling. One reason why I am talking about this in particular is because I want to show you what situation this puts Dendi in and how he overcomes it. We'll see in the future, or in the rest of the game, how he actually takes this to overcome this deficit, because there are team deficits and there are personal deficits, and right now he is fighting a personal deficit. Even though Shadowfiend is only level 3 and they are both level 3, they're not doing too bad experience-wise. Shadowfiend is a level ahead, but they are doing really bad by splitting the gold between these two heroes. Not anything you ever really want to see. Okay. Pop out the chat so that I can pull up my notes at the same time. Sorry, I'm definitely multitasking here, but that's okay. Okay, cool. So, alright. Cool. Alright. So, sorry about that. But anyway. So, pretty much the same thing's happening. I can go ahead and speed this up. There's not too much interesting coming for the first beginning of the game. I do want to note how, well, we'll see we'll see how Dendi starts to overcome this. So he is saving up for a bottle and maximizing his agility just to get that those extra right clicks in. See, Magnus is, yeah, he does go 1 in skewer, so he is, you know, not going completely crazy with the Empower, but still going pretty crazy. Yeah, another thing about this lane is that Morphling is the one that anyone's going to go on if they try and attack somebody, because he's got fewer max hit points when they attack him, and he also loses all of his mana too if you attack him. He's easier to kill, and if you don't kill him, he's completely worthless. Whose Magnus always has that, 200 extra hit points, so yeah, no real problem over there. But anywho, so what happens here, starts to happen, is that Magnus starts to leave the lane a little bit. He's probably pretty frustrated, so he starts to leave the lane a little bit, grab the experience farm here, and you'll see that Dendi just stays in the lane. He's going to basically want to overtake this lane, and Magnus, once he hits level 6, will be a lot better at doing things than Morphling. So Morphling is just gaining levels right now. I mean, he's level 5, 6.5 minutes in, so it's not horrible, but he's about a minute or two behind experience-wise. See, Shadow Fiend's level 7, so Magnus essentially made this lane harder than a normal lane would be. Yeah, so... Oh man, the bubbles are catching up to me once again. So, one thing that is really nice is that Lich makes a rotation in, and they try to get a kill, but they don't. If you notice, Morphling did a really smart thing. Actually, Tiny did end up getting the kill, but I want to say Dendi did a couple of smart things here. So, one thing is, Lich came in, they got a massive amount of damage on the Shadow Fiend. And he could have gone and he could have towered over and tried to go for a kill, and probably would have taken a lot of damage and maybe would have died. But instead he just comes back, farms right here, and then once he sees that Tiny's there, he tries to get close enough to maybe get the extra bonus gold. See, Lich got 209 extra gold from that, but he couldn't make it, so he just continues to farm. Like, if you think about it, the lane farm is always secure farm for you. And he just keeps on going for the lane farm. So, and that's not a bad thing at all. So, by going for the lane farm, he's getting consistent gold. And Tiny and Lich were able to get that kill. So, they got more levels and more experience out of it. But, like I said, not a huge deal. Dendi does use the ward to know where the rune is at, picks up the rune right at 8 minutes, so he's doing just everything a mid player should do. Push the lane, grab the rune at 8 minutes. As you can see, Shadow Fiend has a lot of Necromastery, 22 bonus damage, so 11. They're going in on this right now. If we watch, Dendi actually swings back here because he doesn't know whether or not to commit. And then once Magnus starts to come in, he knows to commit because they've got more heroes here. Like, since it's 4v3, he knows he can safely commit now. And then this Tiny actually does a lot of damage to Shadow Shaman. So they're able to end up just getting the kill on the Marana with the ultimate, but not able to get the Shadow Shaman. Breed actually comes in, or Breed the Nature's Prophet. This is just a random game, like I said. So, but luckily Morphling does have a regen rune to pop off of. I want to show you how much he actually takes advantage of this regen rune. So, he comes up here, and he's still regenning right now, trying to help out to kill the Shadow Shaman. Shadow Shaman dies, so what he does is he was able to see this courier on his mini-map. So he's regenning right now. Notices this on his mini-map. Notices the courier on his mini-map. Because if you actually go into his first-person cam, you'll probably have to trust me on this, but if you go into his first-person cam, he does not look over here at all. But as you can see by his motions, see right when it disappears, he goes up here and he finds the courier, but doesn't quite get it. So it did have the burst and he wasn't able to get it. And then he immediately gets caught out by Lifestealer. So this is just a part of the good positioning of Dendi, and just a part of just what happens in pubs. Like, there's a lot less organization in a pub game. So because of that, things tend to be, well, really sloppy. But luckily Dendi knows how to really think on its feet and, kind of just position himself in the best possible position at all points in time. So this is one of the things that I just want to point out. Dendi does quite a few little things here to make it really good. So I'm just slowing it down just a little bit. He's holding on to his waveform as long as possible. Pops this. See, Lifestealer thinks he's going to wave down because that's what he normally would, but this patience from Dendi actually gets him to wave down at the last second. So he actually he starts to run up here, and then he just decides to run through here, dodges the arrow, and like I said, this is running at halftime right now. So Nature's Prophet, he sees Nature's Prophet TP in, but he has another waveform in a couple seconds. He's morphing Strength, so he doesn't die. Does not morph underneath the amount to waveforms. He stops it before he's at 160. So that's what he was looking at. So he had 161 mana. If we look at this again, I want to just go back and see how well this was timed. So he's morphing, stops. He just stops it right when he has the mana he needs and just slides right on out. No problemo. That's just little things that pros can do to make the best out of bad situations. So he had like 4 heroes on him and was able to just get away. Now if we actually look, like I said, I don't like to look at these graphs much, but they are actually in the lead right now. And the name of this episode is Coming Back from a Deficit. So we'll see in the future how this game actually becomes a deficit and how you come back from it. But a lot of this game is on what Dendi's play is right now, because if you look, he has 1 kill, 3 assists, only 22 CS, which is like less than half of what he normally wants at this point. So in order to make up for this, you know, bad beginning, surprisingly this is a bad beginning if you're level 7 and have 1 kill, 3 assists, and no deaths. The problem is he just doesn't have any farm whatsoever. So in order to make up for that, he's saving up for a Midas. In 10 gold, he'll have enough for the Midas. So he buys it right away. And he just buys this Midas to make up for it. One thing that he did, though, was really good is push out the lane and then go and farm these camps and then come back to the lane to farm some more. So there are 3 heroes in mid, which makes mid terribly unsafe. And he wants to make sure that he can use his Midas as much as possible. So he's going to just basically get out of that lane to make sure he gets his Midas and returns his bottle. One thing that he also does is he's staying way back from everything and just maximizing his right-click damage. He's maximizing his agility. If you look, he has like 81 agility and 568 max hit points. He does have still some strength, so he's not immediately one-shottable. But his entire team is just like going in on a team fight, but he knows he's not ready. He's going to help how he can, but he doesn't have anything other than a Midas and 560 hit points. If we look, a range creep has 560 hit points, so congratulations, you are a range creep. That's how easy he is to kill right now. But no drastic movements by Dendi. No, trying to save the Lich or anything like that. Even though it's good to save your allies, he is just chilling and relaxing as best he can, making smart decisions. He does come up and he blasts down the Lifestealer with his waveform. Since Morphling can attack during waveform now too, he does a lot more damage like that. Able to get a kill, but all he does is he just pushes this wave and farm. They'll be able to get this tower, or at least put a lot of damage on it, because 2 heroes are dead. Shadow Fiend actually died 2 in the middle of the tier 3, so they're going to be able to get this for sure. Bloodseeker created a lot of room there by jumping into the enemy base and deciding not to die. So one thing to note is that Dendi's Midas just came off cooldown. That's why he's running up here. I mean, like, he knows that if Bloodseeker's up here, it's safer because they're not chasing anymore. Oh, excuse me. So the enemy team isn't chasing, so Dendi knows he can farm up here. And that, I mean, just a little bit of farming. Not a ton of farming, but he knows that some space was created for him to farm. And the importance of that is that his team has a lot of farmers on it. So if we look for a second, we can see that we've got Morphling here. He needs a lot of farm. We've got Tiny down here. He needs a lot of farm. He's actually going for the Power Treads Drums build. So he's looking to play more of a 2-position type of role, just to keep the pace going on his team. Dendi is going for the Midas just to make sure that they have the late game secured. That's his main goal. Lich is getting regular Lich things, Tranquil Boots into Mechanism, and support items. Bloodseeker is going to be going for lots of last hits. See, he has 81 last hits. If we look, Dendi only has 41 last hits. So they need a lot of farm on their team, and Magnus also has 48 last hits. So Magnus really wants farm. He's super greedy about it too, but once he gets his Blink Dagger, he'll be seeing a lot more action and not farming as much. That's just how Magnus works. So they have 4 heroes right now that are basically farming as much as they can. And what Dendi does to compensate for this is to farm the enemy jungle, because that creates more overall farming space on the map, and he's safer than any other hero in the game right now because he has waveform, he has morph into strength, and he can replicate. So like, he has 3 defensive spells right now. Waveform being the multi-purpose, offensive, defensive, movement, displacement, and damage dealer is really good, but he's right there to clear out all the waves. One thing I want to note about this, one thing you should do when you play as well, is that when you have AoE spells like this, knock everything down to the point that you can kill them with the spells. It'll make your last hitting easier. You'll push the wave faster when you're pushing, and you'll get every last hit. See, if we look, this one's at 300 hit points. This one's down to 300 hit points. This one's, you know, he's making sure they're all at like 200, 300 hit points, and then he just uses a wave which does 325 and kills them. So he's able to get all of those last hits while simultaneously pushing. Dendi does have his replicant for another 3 seconds, so he's a little leery right now. Like, they want to get the tower down, but he can't get it down. So he just pops out all the way back here. He's going to go back and heal. If we look, Dendio still only has 600 max hit points at this point. So he's really, really low, and that's to farm as quickly as possible. Empower does give damage based on your stats, so more agility means more damage even from Empower. But if we look, his attack speed and his damage is crazy. So he's able to just keep farming because of that. He's constantly watching his minimap. If you look, he doesn't see this, but he sees that these heroes are missing, and he knows that these heroes are up top. So he's kind of okay, and just goes for the ring, and he has to get out now as quickly as possible. But smart thing that he does is, instead of getting just back to base like most people's natural reaction is, Dendi goes and he waves up here to maximize his farming. So he waves up here, does 300 damage to both these creeps, and starts to kill them, and then he'll be able to later just go and, well, this camp is already dead thanks to, you know, Bloodseeker needing farm as well, but he's able to just go and, you know, he was able to aggressively get away, if that makes sense. Another thing I want to note is Dendi's item build. So take a look at this. He has Boots of Travel. Now, you might be wondering why he got Boots of Travel. He went straight Midas into Boots of Travel. So, okay, we're good? We're good. Sweet. So, Dendi went straight Midas into Boots of Travel. How crazy is that? In this situation, not too crazy. So, if we think about this scenario, to begin with, we have Tiny, who's gone for a mid-game oriented build. He's gone Treads, Drums, probably into Scepter after that, maybe Yasha in between. But he has Treads, so he doesn't really need the Yasha as much. Probably just Treads, Drums, Scepter, and then he'll go for like Manta style or something like that afterwards. So he's looking to be effective all game long. Bloodseeker is Bloodseeker, so he's really good right now and will be really good for the next 10-20 minutes. And then he starts to fade off a bit, but not terribly badly. So he's not doing, he's good as like all around, just doing all right. Magnus is big team fight late game, but he's kind of capped out on items. We'll go back into the game, and he should have his Blink Dagger, definitely. Yeah, he has his Blink Dagger and 200 extra. So he does have it. And then Lich will fall off very hard late game. So Morphling Dendi knows that he needs to be the late game carry. There is a sweet spot where Tiny will not be that good. Between the time he gets his drums and when he gets a scepter, if he's going for scepter next, there will be a weak point. So Dendi gets this to maximize efficiency on top of efficiency. Basically, it's like getting a secondary Midas, because it gives you the ability to farm any camp anywhere, and it makes it so he doesn't have to buy TP scrolls for the rest of the game. So he ends up, on average, you probably save about, 800 gold or so. You save an item slot. And he can do things like this. He can make a replicant of Bloodseeker. He can go to any lane. He can actually go up here. He teleports to get this kill on Lifestealer. Lifestealer pops out. They kill him, but, that was pretty much given that he was going to die there. So he's able to go up here, push this, and as you can see, he has the option of replicating out if he wants to. He does not replicate out because he wants to try and get the last hit on the tower. So yeah, he just continues to push. If you can see, every time that Midas is on cooldown, he pops it. This is also what I was talking about with Bloodseeker being really good right now. So Bloodseeker's really good right now. Tiny's really good right now too. They have a really good potential right now, and the only thing that's holding Dendi together is just his levels. He's level 11, and that's a really good thing to note about the Midas. The Midas for him was not only a recovery item for gold, it was mainly gotten as a recovery for the bad experience that he got at the beginning of the game. Having to share it with the Magnus made it so that he was underleveled, and an underleveled Morphling is very underwhelming, to say the least. Morphling needs levels a lot. So he got the Midas mainly for the levels, but the gold also helps, obviously. And it's just a catch-up item, like I said. So if you notice, he's been trying to use it on the biggest creeps he can most of the time, but not always gets it. So if we looked right there, these three heroes went up and they tried to go kill. Dendi just stayed back and focused on the objective, which is, as I've been talking about, the much safer approach. His replicate, actually, another point I want to point out is that he just got this replicate off in time. So he replicates, and with the Boots of Travel replicate combo, he can go back and he can heal whenever. And this is why he still keeps his bottle so late. He gets a Ghost Scepter, going for Ethereal Blade. So, no big surprise there. He wants to go ahead and kill. There are 1, 2, 3 heroes that he can kill instantly once he gets that. But he's able to just hop back up here. And again, he's farming in the enemy jungle. Why can he do this? Because this ward right here will help him out. He knew it was safe because he had his replicant there. And they're just now respawning. So he has this ward right here that saves his life if anybody comes. But in the meantime, he can farm up here while still creating space for Lich to stack, Bloodseeker to farm a lane, Tiny to farm a lane, and then Magnus to just do whatever. Because he really wants to go for those hero kills, so he's going aggressive all the time. So as you can see, Dendi is watching out hardcore for any form of other hero, because where there's one, there's more in the enemy jungle. So he's just being really cautious right now. He makes a replicant out here, and if you look, he immediately goes right back up in this direction. So this was a good juicy creep wave. This guy's almost dead, these dudes are almost dead, and these two are almost dead. He just has to get up there and wait for him, get some kills, and with the replicant, he can join in on the team fight whenever the team fight's ready to happen. It's just maximizing the efficiency on top of the already efficiency. So as we can see, this is a huge creep wave, but at the same time, he's watching for this down here. So his replicant's right here, just in case, but he is actually just going to push this lane until a team fight breaks out. He's got 15 seconds, so right after Magnus ults, he goes in, and he knows he can get kills just because lots of burst damage on the morphling. But he ran out of mana, so he's not going to be able to do much more. But instead of running in and trying to, pick up these pieces when he has no mana, that would just be suicide. So he just lets his team die. Really good positioning by Dendi. So as he was going through, if we look, I think he actually got Force Staffed too. No, he didn't. So he did not get Force Staffed. But one thing to note is that he did notice that the Orchid was going up on, or the Orchid was already up on Nature's Prophet. So by noticing that that Orchid is already up, he knows he's going to go for a Lincoln's, but he already has the Ghost Scepter. So we'll see which one he actually goes. It's not a bad idea to go either route, but Lincoln's is pretty much necessary once the enemy team starts to get Orchids, just because it'll pop the silence, and a silence morphling is pretty much dead weight. He has 0 defenses. It's basically like a walking range creep if you catch him with low hit points. So he pulls this back right here. He's trying to just kill that big creep as late as possible. And in general, you want to make sure that you use it on the biggest creep you can, at least until level 16, sometimes higher, depending on your hero's stat gains, which he's got 3 agility, 2 strength, and 1.5 intelligence. Plenty of intelligence, or enough intelligence, I should say. But, between strength and agility, it's 5 points. So he has pretty good gains, and Morph makes it even better. So that's one other thing to note. I do want to touch a little bit on the actual Morphling skill build. So he went first point Morph, maxed out Waveform, got 1 point in Replicate. So the first point in Morph gives him 3 agility, as you can see, which is a huge boon to it. The 3 agility is just 3 damage when you right click in lane, and that's quite a bit. So he gets it for the 3 right click damage, and he gets it so he can morph to even more. If you look, he bought a Wraith Band, 2 Iron Branches. Well, he got that Wraith Band, and then he got 2 Iron Branches. So he was going for maximum damage, ended up getting like 60 damage at level 1, which is really good for a hero like Morphling. 60 damage and some range. Not a ton, but some range. 350, so that's good. And if we look, so that's basically how he's building. Max Waveform. Adaptive Strife scales with how high your stats are, so it's pretty worthless early on. It does like no stun when you have a lot of agility like you should early on, and it's just not that good. Excuse me once again. So some people don't get Replicate right at 6, but Dendi has been making some good use of it, so I say, hey, he has the right build for this. He was able to use it for Lich a few times, bottle or TP back with Boots of Travel, and then bottle up. And it also just lets him farm a lot more safely in general. The main power of Morphling is the ability to split push with always coming in a team fight. Similar to Spectre, but Morphling is harder to kill because he can slide away. He can flash farm faster too with Waveform and being able to increase his agility and his damage. So if we look this entire fight, Dendi hasn't been really doing anything. I mean, he has 3 kills and 4 assists out of his 15 for team, so he has contributed to half of them. But if we look every single second, he is not in a team fight. He is just farming. You can even watch his patterns to see how powerful it is. He does pick up the F-Blade first, so he knows that he can just kill people immediately, and he'll go right for the Lincolns after it. Always looking for a way to use his Replicate to increase his farming efficiency. He's using it the same way that Ember Spirit uses it, or rather, Ember Spirit uses it the same way Morphling does. And that's really the best thing you can do earlier on. Later on, you want to keep it with the team. If we look, Dendi is going with this wave, and he's going to just... He's actually using the Lich to last hit the range creep, and he'll be able to get that. So the Lich Replicant is giving him some extra farm. He could teleport up there, but it's probably not safe, so he's not going to, I imagine. Instead, he actually goes down and he gets a kill on the Lifestealer. So if we look, his positioning up here, just he saw the Lich in trouble, goes, fights the Lifestealer, he's down. So he doesn't want to teleport away. He's got a whole juicy jungle full of creeps to kill. And if you just look at his patterns when he's in the jungle, he usually doesn't go for the small camp. And if he does, he just will like waveform through it. See, it's just not even worth his time to go for that small camp when he can just go for the bigger things. So, in general, the biggest camp you can safely and quickly take, the best. And the little ones aren't even worth it at this point for him. It's better to just stay in lane and get the farm that way. Medium camps are worth it, especially if they are not magic immune. So the Mud Golems are a pain, but other than that, not bad. He casually buys a TP scroll when he already has it. Just shows how much he buys TP scrolls. Because he buys one when he already has Boots of Travel. So, whatever, that happens. Right here, Dendi does get caught off guard. Shadow Shaman has the blink, and that really hurt him a lot right there. In fact, he's just going to die. Tries to stay alive with his F-Blade, but can't. And as you can see from this, he'll just be getting stats from the Lincolns and getting that back up. So I'm speeding it up while he's dead so that we can come back into the game. Cool. Alright, so these Boots of Travel, this is what I was talking about. He can actually come and join at any time. That he just got his shotgun fairly recently, so he's able to blast like that. One thing, again, he did not overcommit, so Lifestealer is still almost dead. He has an armlet, but he's not going to just go in and get the kill. He's just looking to, again, secure his own personal farm. When we look at this game, they were ahead by 4,000 and, you know, almost 10,000 or 7,500 experience, and now it's going in the Dire's favor. So, like, they are losing pretty hard right now as far as, like, their momentum is going down. And this is what I was talking about. So Tiny did go Blink Dagger and then Point Booster into the eggs, which means Tiny's not going to come online for another 2,500 gold. He's not going to be as useful as he's been the rest of the game. His nuke will start doing less damage proportionate to how big the heroes are, and it's just another thing to consider when you're playing. It's like, okay, my Tiny is not going to be as good now. Magnus is going to be okay. He has Force Staff. He has Ghost Scepter. So not really getting any better, but not really getting any worse. Bloodseeker's doing alright. He's getting AC. So once he gets to 300 gold, he'll be actually coming up. And then Lich almost has his mechanism. So once he has that, he'll be better. Right now is a pretty vulnerable time for the team as a whole. But as you can see on the Morphling, he just makes a replicant and keeps on farming. The power of this hero is the ability to just constantly farm, and Dendi's taking advantage of this. But with this replicant right here, he's able to come into the fight at any time. He goes in, tries to get the kill on the Shadow Fiend, is not able to, but he does save Bloodseeker's life, which is pretty important. Immediately turns invisible because, well, they're invisible too. But that Sentry Ward caught him off, and he got blasted with the F-Blade and then thrown up. So 2 for none, pretty good. Well, Magnus did die beforehand, but oh yeah, also they changed the clock on here, so it's completely readable. It goes up to the 8, and then it'll show you the rest of the time left for the 3 minutes. So hooray for Valve! Nice, very, very nice. So cool. Now we have Dendi is pushing this tower with his team since 2 heroes are down. Pushing this tower will secure the Roshan area for them. Even though Rosh is not up, it's going to keep that secure for them so that next time Rosh does spawn, they'll be able to get it instead of the Dire. So even though they don't have their tier 2 either, it's just nice to make it even or more even. So he goes and he buys his Perseverance, gets his ultimate orb as well. And again, he's waiting for the rune, so he'll be able to grab the rune and then immediately go. He could have wave formed up here, but it's okay. He's just looking to use his Midas as soon as possible. The most important part. Midasing as soon as possible. He still goes for the biggest creep to get the most experience. But he's just trying to maximize. The stat gains, like I said, on Morphling are just huge, especially with the morph. You're able to just morph it down, and he only has 1,000 max hit points at this point. If we look, it's 100 more than Lich. It's 100 more than Lich, 400 less than Nature's Prophet. So he has like no hit points whatsoever. Magnus completely biffs on his ultimate, but that's okay. Now, as you can see, Morphling is not running in here. He actually just runs in, blasts attacks, but gets silence from the Orchids. So this is why he's getting the Lincolns, because that silence is crucial to being able to kill him. He does only have 1,000 hit points max right now. But he gets out, brought his guy down, and he's just gonna pop his regen rune. Probably farm up some more. Actually, yeah, probably just farm up some more, because he can't do anything to save his team, and he already has 2 dead on his team, so he's just going to continue his farm. Running over there would just be a waste of time right now. So he continues to farm, and he's going to try and push this tower at the same time. They try and push the mid tower, because there's still 30 seconds until his team is at full force. And he can get all of this farm. So he was able to get quite a bit of farm, actually finish off his Lincoln Sphere 30 minutes in, so, and pull the enemies back. That's, the shotgun is just so incredibly powerful, just like that. Actually, the silence is on him right now. He doesn't have his Lincolns yet, and it looks like he's in pretty big trouble. So he does pull everybody back successfully. That's the good news, that they don't lose their tier 3 tower. But he died, which is definitely not worth it, even for a Mirana kill. Because if we look, the thing you have to look at when you do something like that is Mirana's level 13, and then Dendi is level 19. So, are you happy, breed? They must have a slight rivalry. So it's level 19 Nature's Prophet as well. But the amount of levels that Morphling has gives the enemy team so much more gold and experience than normal. So, as we can see, Ags is online for Tiny, which is really good news for the team in general. And that means that they're going to start doing better. See, they were down 3,000 gold, and you know they're still going down on experience, almost 5,000 experience down. But they do have the highest level on either team. You know, they do have a really high level. They just have a really low level too. One thing here is that certain hero combos make it impossible to farm. The Nature's Prophet plus Lifestealer combo is brutal. Like, without that, he would have been able to kill him. Lincoln's gets popped. How did Lincoln's even get popped there? Oh, the Hex. He didn't know about it, so the Hex popped the Lincolns. But now they know that he has Lincolns, and they're able to just kill him. The Nature's Prophet is really farmed, and that's bad for Dendi. That is really bad for Dendi, is that Nature's Prophet is super duper farmed. So, with 2 activatable items, and he can actually use Sprout, that's the best way to pop the Lincolns as Nature's Prophet, is if you Sprout and click on the hero, you'll pop the Lincolns. But if you Sprout and click the area, you will not pop the Lincolns. So, as a note, if you're Nature's Prophet and somebody has the Lincolns, put Sprout directly on them, and you will pop it. So, just keep that in mind when you're playing against your nice friendly Weaver. But as you can see, even with the Scepter, he is pretty tanky, but he doesn't have the attack speed. He has 300 damage and just needs attack speed. As long as he's with the Bloodseeker with the AC, then he's not bad. But Tiny was able to get it out of there. And Dendi just goes and farms some more. So one key note to say is that I actually want to look at the last hits and denies, just to give you an idea of how well he's been farming. he has the second most on either team right now. And if you remember, he only had 20 at like 10 minutes into the game because of the Devil's Tri-Lane that he was in. So he's able to make up that, and he also has a Midas, so he has more gold than anybody else on the field. I can pretty much guarantee you that his net worth is going to be the highest. Nope, never mind, Nature's Prophet is, but
Radiant's top tower is taking hits.
But Nature's Prophet has been doing really good at being active and getting a lot of kills. He actually buys a Dagon level 2. So
Radiant's top tower is hurting.
So Dendi comes up here and he's actually going to help out his team. Because they dove under the tower, it's a very good time to defend. In general, as a carry, you want to go in on that kind of defense. This right here, that ult was really good. The BKB on Shadow Fiend was just really good timing. But he does actually get hit by an unfortunate bat for him, and they're able to take him down. So tower does go down. It goes 2 for 1. But the thing to remember about the enemy team is that they have Shadow Fiend as a semi-carry and Mirana as a semi-carry. So they have 2 semi-carries. And the Radiant has Tiny and Morphling, which are both very heavy carries. Actually, Tiny's a heavier carry than Morphling is. But Morphling, the advantage they have about Morphling in this game is that will slow down what the Nature's Prophet tries to do. Nature's Prophet does not have Shadow Blade. He does not have Blink. He does not have any defense outside of his items. So he's got, he'll be able to either Orchid or Scythe. Like I said, he can use the Sprout trick, but the fact is he just can't do much. Mirana actually got a Blade Mail to stop the shotgun, which is a really smart idea. Because if you think about it, Morphling won't have very many hit points, but he will have a lot of damage. So one shotgun can actually kill Morphling just as much as it kills you. If we look, Mirana has 300 more hit points than Morphling right now. So Dendi can actually kill himself pretty easily. Right now, so before Dendi was farming the enemy jungle, it is no longer safe to do that. And so he just farms in lane wherever he can. So if we look right now, the Radiant has control of their Ancients, their jungle, and this lane right here. They do not have control of this lane because it's close to the enemy jungle, and they do not have control of this lane. So these are the only places to farm. And since Dendi is around, and Tiny is way over here, Tiny can farm the jungle and Morphling can farm the lane. And also Morphling can escape better because he has his waveform and his replicant. But most of the heroes are off the map right now, so he just sells his bottle. Finally, at 38 minutes in, he sells his bottle. Take note of that. I mean, that's just crazy. This ward, hero ward right there, just check this out. The hero ward actually spotted the Shadow Shaman walking in, trying to drop or I guess I had a sentry, but just instantly kills him. So, and the Blood Rage is actually a really good combo with Morphling because he has so much agility. Blood Rage works off the base damage, and it actually gives him like a lot of damage, and so does the Empower. So, a couple of really, really good Morphling synergies coming out in this game. Not really planned, not planned at all. Probably it is a pub game, but they just work really, really well with Morphling. Because Tiny's actually gives him bonus damage, which is just flat damage. Tiny should have probably sold his wand and picked up one of the two, because he would be a really good cheese carrier, but it's okay. Bloodseeker got it as well, and the Blade Mail plus Assault Curios is really, really important for the team. So take it for what it is. So Dendi is able to push up here, hopefully not get hit by too much of anything. If we look, oh there, he actually did use the Sprout. He popped it with the Sprout, so kudos to Nature's Prophet for doing that. Now, one thing I want to note about the positioning here, Dendi is all the way back here, even though he has the Aegis, he shouldn't be the first to run in because he knows he can clean up as long as something at least quasi-decent happens. So Magnus popped his BKB, jumped in. He's doing a lot of work. Shadow Fiend does not have his BKB up and gets pulled out to death. Certain death. So Dendi is just sitting back. He's sitting behind. The key is he's sitting behind Bloodseeker, sitting behind Tiny. And then he's just going to right-click or blast somebody down and then just be able to do as much damage as he can right now. He can't go crazy because of the blade mail, but his team is actually also losing right now, so he waveforms away. And he's just going to get out. Even though he has Aegis, he's going to bait the Nature's Prophet into attacking. Pops the Lincolns with that, with the Orchid, so he can cast spells. And if you look, he has a decent amount of strength, so he's not going to be able to one-shot, but he's waiting for the right time to blast, which is apparently right now. And he's able to get some kills. So he was able to get those kills without even losing his Aegis yet. But down it'll go. He gets force-staffed into the base. By whom? I don't know. Yeah, I actually don't know who did that, but it doesn't matter. So, nice timing on that arrow for the respawn, but he does have 3,000 hit points, so he's actually going to be able to nuke Moran out of the way. Smart thinking by Dendi. So, one thing is, he knew Shadow Fiend was down here, and the rest of his team, the enemy team, was right here. So he kills Marana because she has low hit points. You know, she has like 1,500 hit points right now. Kills Marana, and then the safest thing to do was to wave up in this direction, and then go ahead and kill, and then TB out, so that he doesn't die again. And also, he does like no damage, or 200 damage. So he goes and goes out. You know, his team is dead pretty much, but I would say that's a really good use of the Aegis because he was able to stay alive. But not too much more to be said about that other than that. So he does have Blade, and Lincoln's. If we look at the net worth, he may be up at the top now. Yeah, he is by 20, by 3,000. Even as such, if we look, the gold is just barely in their favor, and the experience is still in the Dire's favor. So Dendi has been able to come back so far this game just by focusing on his farm, not dying, because he's only died 3 times. Like, if we look at the kills death, he's died 2 less times than anybody else on the game right now. So just the lack of dying has kept his team in the game, honestly. He's able to one-shot 3 of their heroes. Just with his shotgun combo, he's able to one-shot Nature's Prophet, Marana, and Shadow Shaman. Pretty much Nature's Prophet. Not really, but not either of the other 2. So that keeps them scared, and they always have to go as 5 like this because of that. Because if they get picked off, they're dead. And Morphling has to watch out for Nature's Prophet. That's the biggest thing he has to watch out for. Actually, and Shadow Shaman blinking in along with the rest of the team. So he got mega caught out, and he's going to die. 900 gold goes the way of Nature's Prophet, which is not really that big of a deal because he's pretty much, well, he's like 4 slotted right now. So Shadow Fiend has used his BKB a lot.
Radiant's mid tower's getting banged up. Guess what's happened? Radiant's toughened up their structure.
So Dendi buys back right here because his base is dying. So I wasn't watching anything on purpose, just because he was not able to do anything. He's able to one-shot Marana, but they lose the barracks. And one thing I was talking about earlier with that blade mail is, well, don't mind the graphical glitches. This is Morphling. Pretend he's there. He's really there, I promise. So, right here, Marana pops the blade mail knowing that she could die from the Morphling. Morphling has 1,800 health. Marana has 1,500. But he uses his Blade first, which makes him take more magic damage too. And blade mail is magic damage. So if we look, he actually, the Lincolns gets popped on the Blade. but he still gets F. The damage from the F blade pops the Lincolns, and then he just kills himself with the blade mail. And as we can see, Morphling is out for a long time, but he has been able to buy enough time for Tiny to get his BKB so he can stand through these fights, and that's pretty much what's going to hold them together right now. Like, Tiny going down is not good. Can they buy back? Not at all. He's nowhere close to buying back, so this is not looking good at all for their team. Gonna go ahead and speed it up because, well, there's not really much that he can do. So this is really good by Magnus just to stall, but he's actually getting kills too. So Hero Magnus right here going for the refresher, but gets 2 kills, and Lifestealer gets almost out, but he's gonna go, and he's gonna go focused on the racks. So right here, the Abyssal Blade, he's gonna try and kill him, but doesn't. Alright, the important thing I want to note right here. So I don't know if you guys watched a lot of my episodes, but I always like to enforce that you should not be overzealous when you're getting bases. If we look at the situation right now, the situation is pretty bad for the Dire. So Dire, what they did is they focused everything on getting mega creeps. They got their mega creeps. All of the buildings are dead. But there's one major issue. So Lifestealer's dead, no buyback. Shadow Fiend is dead, probably no buyback. We're going to go ahead and start the game again to see if he can buy back. No buyback for a minute. So Lifestealer can't buy back for 5 minutes. He bought back in order to get mega creeps. We got Shadow Shaman who just bought back 4 minutes ago, I guess. Marana, her buyback's ready, but she doesn't really have that much. She has Rod of Atos. Woohoo. She has the Blade Mail to keep herself alive and Rod of Atos. No real damage coming out from the Marana. No big threat. And if we look, Mr. Moneypants, Nature's Prophet, he has 7,000 gold. He does have a buyback, so they have 3 heroes for the next 80 seconds, and everybody's coming back on the side of the Radiant. So one thing to note is that they went overzealous and they actually kind of threw this game, but the thing is you have to be able to take advantage of this because there are mega creeps coming your way. Now, like I've said before, Morphling is good at flash farming, but this just kind of shows. Like, he was able to clear that out. Didn't take much damage because of his 35 base armor. All of that agility converts so well into the armor, and he just takes no damage. Like, 68% physical resist. Crazy. And he just clears out the wave so that his base is not going to die much or too hard. And they know they have like 20 seconds until he comes back. Tiny has his crazy damage. Lincoln's does not block arrow. I want to make that point out. So they do have the bottom racks dead, and then all they do is say, hey, our only shot to win this game is to go for the throne right now. So they go for the throne right now. These two are still out. Like, they are gone. Can't do anything. And the amount of damage that these two do to bases, it's just crazy. So Bloodseeker dies, just uses the RP to buy time, but it's just like hit buildings, acquire wins. And if we look, Tiny is just wailing on this. Blast down the Shadow Shaman. Shadow Shaman's dead again. And he's just trying to get those last hits. Like, between him and Tiny, they did get the last hits. So, really close game. Yeah, let's go into the score screen. Just so you guys can see. Match ID as always. But the crazy thing is, if we look at the gold per minute at the end, Dendi had the most with 623, 727 EXP per minute. He had 100 more EXP per minute than anybody else on the map, except for Nature's Prophet, and about the same amount of gold. But he had 300 last hits. So, by being able to farm it in circles efficiently, he was able to come back. If we look, the Tiny is 4 and 10, the Lich is 3 and 10, and just the rest of the team did not really, end up getting that good of a score per se. But by the combination of being able to farm a lot more on the morphling, taking advantage of that farm, and not being overzealous in team fights, and just staying back, not dying, he was able to come back from a pretty bad deficit, along with the rest of his team. So yeah, that's actually the game. Like I said, great game, fantastic game actually. It just goes to show, like, even if everything is against you in a game, if you focus on the core of what you need to do, you can win the game. They even had mega creeps against them, but they still won the game, just because the other team threw. That's pretty obvious. Like, that life stealer really wanted that last building, and it wasn't really that necessary. Yeah, mega creeps are nice, but the thing you got to remember is the opponent is going to be their strongest right after you kill all of their buildings. If you lose heroes, that is the opponent's best time to counterattack, and they took advantage of it and they killed. So not much else to say besides that. Morphling, bam, right there. So Dendi played Morphling quite well. He did a lot of really good rotations. Why he was able to get so much farm, he was able to get good rotations into the enemy jungle, transition that by replicating down to mid or down into his own jungle from there, and then he was in his own jungle, farm some more, maybe use another replicate, maybe not, but TP back. I would say the biggest keys to his farming was obviously Midas and Boots of Travel, but another one was the bottle. One thing I wanted to note and keep noting is that bottle was very, very important for him. I don't know if you were paying attention, hopefully you were. Dendi didn't really have like any hit points the entire game until he came into team fights. He didn't have like any hit points at all, and the bottle helps him keep his mana up to push those lanes out so that he could farm the jungle after pushing the lane, and possibly farm another lane because of replicants and his Boots of Travel. And he always had his bottle filled from the fountain or finding a rune. So keeping that bottle for that long was huge, and having the Boots of Travel was part of being able to keep that bottle. So he kept the Hand of Midas actually all game. He never got rid of that Hand of Midas. Paid for itself 10 times over for experiencing gold. He was level 25. So if we actually go back into the game, we can see in the score screen, level 25, Midas, Eye of Skady, Lincoln Sphere, going on Butterfly, has F-Blade, and Boots of Travel. So super duper rich, but still kept that Hand of Midas because he was still needing items and didn't get rid of it. He got rid of the bottle beforehand, but that happens. So I guess that's about all I have to say about that. Is just stick to your team game plan, which theirs was for, well, at least Dendi's was, because he wasn't in control of everybody else, was to farm as dangerously as he could, if that makes sense. So because he has had the most escapes in the game, he could farm the dangerous spots. I already talked about it earlier, but I just want to reinforce, he can farm the dangerous spots so the rest of his team can farm the less dangerous spots. And because he pretty much couldn't die that well, I mean, he did die a couple of times from doing that, but he was able to secure farm for the Tiny in particular. Tiny had an okay game early on. He was a safe lane farmer, but Dendi was able to push out the lanes, cause everybody to go away, and get farm for that Tiny, actually get farm for the Bloodseeker as well, and just kind of position Magnus for good ults. So by being able to be all the way out, they were forced to defend that or lose towers, and that caused the Dire to not be able to push as fast, even though they had a better pushing lineup. They had Nature's Prophet, Mirana. Mirana's awesome at split pushing, in case you didn't know. She's pretty good at split pushing because she can't die. Nature's Prophet is, well, everybody knows. His ult is amazing for pushing. Flash farming, so better pushing. And then Lifestealer, who's just a great hero all around. Honestly, he's all around good. So They had a really good pushing lineup, but once Tiny got online, once Morphling got online, and once Bloodseeker with his auras and good participation, actually, it was actually a really good job by Bloodseeker creating havoc on the map and getting items like Blade Mail and Assault Cuirass to stay alive and keep people focused on him, because they wanted Bloodseeker to take the most hits and still stay alive. So he got armor and he got Blade Mail so that if people attacked him, they would die and he would get his health back. So actually really done by Bloodseeker. I really liked his play during this game. But yeah, so Dendi just stuck by the principles of farming a bunch, split pushing when he can, and joining the team fights. Just basically played his hero to his maximum ability. If he would have just teamed up and, if they would have just 5-man when they were behind and tried to push, they actually would have lost pretty badly, because Morphling and Tiny both needed more farm. And just by farming up, especially since Morphling had Boots of Travel and Midas, he wasn't that useful until he got the F-Blade and the Lincolns. That's, in general, with heroes that are mobile like that, they're not good until you get those 2 items. So on Weaver, Lincolns plus Deso equals destruction. Before that, he's a wet noodle, essentially. As far as it goes to like team fighting potential and survivability potential, he's a wet noodle. I mean that in the nicest way possible, but same thing goes kind of with Morphling. Depends on the enemy heroes, but Nature's Prophet got an early lead, which is really scary for Morphling in general, because he got the Orchids, he got the Sheep Stick, the Scythe of Vice, and just that was really bad and meant that Dendi had to play a lot more carefully than he wanted to have to play with all of the disables on the enemy team. So, good job by Dendi. Good job by his team. Just sticking to their plan. And Dendi for staying calm. I know it's just a pub game, but Dendi was able to just keep going and get his wins. So, cool. Well, that's all I've got for today. Thank you for tuning in for RoopleeTV number 15. You can follow me at Rooplee on Twitter, RoopleeTV for YouTube, and here is twitch.tv/Rooplee. So feel free to follow me. You can also email me at RoopleeTV@gmail.com. And once I start getting emails about suggestions for games, I will be doing a Sunday Fun Day where I showcase people, and the topic is play mid with a support hero. So I want to see games of you guys playing mid as a support hero, and I will showcase the games and showcase just tell me a brief synopsis of the game, a couple sentences, whatever, nothing too major. I don't really need to hear paragraphs about it, because if you send me the match ID, I can watch the whole thing. So awesome. So send me your replays. Just all you have to do is include the match ID, a couple of sentences like the match ID, what hero you were, and just a couple of sentences, a sentence to whatever about the game to say what went well, what didn't go well, because I want to hear your guys' own personal analysis. The best way to get better is to hear yourself. So, cool. I think that's all I've got. So, I will see you guys next time.